Hello, this is Will at Will's Tarot Path. If you are watching this or watching my channel for the first time, welcome. For those of you who have seen my channel before, welcome back. I'll put it here. But this morning we had a chat with, or I had a chat with Marylin at Marylin's Tarot Take, where we discussed sort of our views and understanding of AI. I addressed at the very beginning the environmental impact and how that can be abrogated, as well as how it's used in my professional life, and then how it may be used creatively. And my hope with the conversation, I think it was Marylin's, it was our shared hope, that discussion would foster conversation, sort of open the pathway to maybe different viewpoints and people having a safe space to discuss positives and negatives, because as Marylin says, there is a negative and everything has a balance, but we have to remember that we are the people and we are in control of it. So for me, it came down to more of a moral, ethical, and how do we use something morally and ethical. But in that discussion, it made me bring up this deck. It's called the Artist Decoded. It is by two artists, Jennifer Sodini and Yoshino. And if you go look them up online, I will put their names in the video here. But when you look them up online, you'll see that they are, if you haven't heard of them, very talented artists. But this deck, they created the art, but they used what they called what's referred to in the book as synthography. So it's digital, it's a collage with some digital touch-ups, and then they did use AI as one element of how to combine those elements that they were doing manually. I'm going to do sort of a slight review of it, and then we'll do a walkthrough. The box is a beautiful presentation. It's this magnetic box that I think most of us really love. There's nothing much on the inside here, but it is a beautiful sort of bronzy gold. The book is excellent. And I almost wish that this little book was a booklet that maybe didn't have the deck yet, but just had the information it has in it. But it's beautiful design on the inside. There it goes. You can see it, but it's just a beautiful design. And then it goes into, it's by RP Studio, which is based evidently in Philadelphia. And this was a 2024 deck, so it's been out for a few years. Okay, so at one point the author's talking about how alchemists had always brought in new ways of experimenting or working on the great work. And so then from that, he says, in the same way, these authors boldly and painstakingly embrace digital and AI visual technologies, a method sometimes called synthography or prompt engineering. From there, they use cut-up collage making with extraordinary results. As their efforts demonstrate, technology does not destroy magic, but instead enhances it. And then that goes back to mention the interview with William S. Burroughs. So it's interesting, his take on it, and I tend to agree with him. But remember, there's a difference between an artist creating something traditionally manually, pouring themselves and hours into it, and then using AI with that to achieve a final result. And I think that can be a part of the broader discussion that I think sometimes we miss. But if you would like to know more about that, watch our chat from this morning with Marylin at Marylin's Tarot Take. as you noticed, this is a box in a box. My cats are wrestling. And I know some people don't like that. I actually love that. It makes it feel a little bit more ceremonial when I'm going into a deck. It's a little bit of an extra time to prepare as I pull a deck out to use. So we'll go through the cards. It does follow the Rider-Waite-Smith, but what they did was remove any references, I think, to what they considered Middle Eastern influence, whether it be Judeo-Christianity or religious symbolism. Now, there might still be a little bit in here, but from the description in the book, it states that they sort of went through with the goal of creating a deck for everyone, and I think, in my viewpoint, they were successful. So I just want to go through this deck because some people hadn't seen it. Remember, it is collage with other digital tools and then with an AI prompt writing. And it doesn't specifically say what prompts were written for AI to use, but remember that a lot of this was done in a traditional manual way, and AI was a tool, just as Photoshop or Canva or GIMP or any of the other electronic drawing tools. Adobe, I can't remember the other name for the Adobe one, but there's another Paints. There's several Paints programs. But this is the Fool. I think the colors are absolutely stunning. In this deck, you won't see any faces, and that does not bother me. There was another one. There's been a few decks where the people don't have faces. That bothers me because, not because of the artwork. The artwork's beautiful, but there's something about it, and I probably need to do work around it, but those images make me feel like I cannot breathe. This doesn't show there isn't a face or that the face is covered. It just shows I can't see the face. And that to me is different because it pulls me a little bit more into the mystery of who is this person. We'd need to go here and turn the light on and remove that shadow from their face so I could see what's going on. So I find that interesting. This is another, I just think all these cards are beautiful, and I don't know why I don't use this deck more often. But you can tell the collage, you can tell the images, if you like collage decks or are familiar with them, they have to be done right to fit the color, the palette, the taste. And this background looks like tissue paper, doesn't it? It's beautiful. Who knows, that might be what they used to layer, but it's just beautiful. And once again, I don't see her face. I don't see her face missing. I don't see it covered. I just can't see it. It's like it's sitting in the dark. She's at just the right angle to where there's a shadow there. This Emperor is very powerful. You really can't see. But then you see he's against, there is nothing but black where his face would be, but then he's against a black background, and he's just disappeared into that. Once again, his face is not missing. It's not covered. I just can't see it. So who is this Emperor? I would really like to know what parts were, how AI assisted. I would really love to know that. If there's one thing I would love to know from most deck creators that use any type of technology, digital tools, or AI in their art, then I would really love, if any creators watch this, if I'm so lucky, then maybe in their next decks, if they use any of those tools, they could write a little bit more in the guidebook about how that's done, because I find, regardless of whether it's AI or any other tools, I find knowing the artistic process is something I really enjoy because I love art. I really enjoyed my art history courses that I've taken. I enjoy learning new things about art and the derivative effects of, of one artist building on a previous artist. For a long time, I never understood. Oh, I'm gonna forget his name now. Picasso. I never understood Picasso's later paintings, the Cubist paintings, until I started reading about the process and what he was trying to accomplish. And then I thought, brilliant. Because understanding that he's trying to see or express a three-dimensional object from all sides at once in a two-dimensional space, that just, my neurons in my brain fire when I think about it. And now when I still look at one of his pieces of artwork, knowing that, my brain is calculating like, oh, wait a minute. That makes sense, and I can see, and maybe it's my crazy brain. But to me, understanding how it was created, why it was created the way it was created, and what the artist's goal was, intention, really added a layer of meaning to that for me, which really makes me appreciate his artwork and really love it. And at one point, I just looked at it and said, well, that's just silly. So understanding how something is created can really help us understand and see how the tools are used. And I think that's a large part of the negative energy we feel and see around the use of AI, is because there is this assumption that AI is doing all the work. And I think if the artists, instead of saying, I used AI for this certain visual effect, or I used AI to merge these two things together, well, what does that mean? Because if you have someone that doesn't use AI, doesn't understand AI, has a barrier against AI, then explain that process more. What does that mean? What was the work you had to do with it? And then go in to discuss the hours it takes, and that it's not as simple as typing in one sentence and getting a perfect result. I think that would be a huge step forward, because anytime there is a situation where there is fear around something, or a not understanding about something, or something has already had a negative impact in a certain way, and people are just against it because of that singular negative impact, knowledge is power. The more we know, maybe take the extra step of doing like some artists have done and are doing now, of streaming or recording for YouTube the process. I've actually thought about that. Some of you know that I am working on a deck that I'm using for personal use. It's a Peanuts Tarot, Charlie Brown and the Gang. But because it's copyrighted, and I'm not going to go against that, I'm going to respect the owners of the copyrights and the family. I'm making it for personal use because it means a lot to me. Those particular characters, what they meant to me growing up, the nostalgia, the time I spent with my sister who's no longer with me, and us, we were what you would call Irish twins, just barely a year apart. And that was just one of the things that brought us joy, was that those CBS specials, I can still see the circle on the TV going and the music playing that little so it's something for me to work with, maybe on inner child work, maybe just to use to remember the good times I had with her. And so I'm using AI with that, but I will tell you, it is not easy. I'm using digital collage. I'm finding the images of the characters. I'm not having AI create those, and then sometimes I am creating or finding some what's it called? Public domain artwork and bringing that in. So if I need AI's assistance, I might have the elements, but maybe I need a room. So if I have the floor and the wall as the background, so maybe I ask AI to like, hey, just create me a room, floor and background. You know, I could draw it, but AI will snap that in the right size and dimensions and pixels and all that for me. And then I can layer my collage on top of that. And then I can import an image of a window with a moon in it, so to speak. And then once I have all the pieces in place, I could use Photoshop. I could use GIMP, which is a free version of Photoshop that I use. I could use Canva. A lot of different tools I could use. You know, you could use your camera. You know, when you take a picture with your camera and you have the filters, and you can say, "Oh, make it an oil painting, make it a watercolor." I could use that. So that's really how I'm using AI. As a tool to merge these elements to make them look cohesive. And that's been really successful doing it that way. So it's important for us, I think, to not immediately assume. A lot of this I talked about already in our chat this morning. I'm sorry, I'm going off on it again. But I just look at these images. I mean, okay. This to me, these images, look at this Eight of Cups, the red standing out against the background. These were all choices made by the artists. This was not wholly created by AI. These figures in the shadows up here watching, where is he going to go next? What's he going to do? This deck has heart. And I think that goes back to what William S. Burroughs says. Art, regardless of how it's created, has to stand for what it is. It has to have legs and stand on its own, so to speak. And to me, this deck does that. To me, I can look at this deck and go, oh, there was some real thought put into this, and some time and work and effort. And AI was used, yes, but AI couldn't do this. AI can't do this by itself alone. The King of Cups. These kings in the shadows gives me goosebumps. Just absolutely beautiful. Knight of Cups. So that's my take. I just wanted to do a walkthrough of this deck. If you haven't seen it, I had brought it up in our conversation today, and Marylin said she hadn't seen it. So I thought I would share it because it is one deck that I absolutely adore. It gives me the feeling of definitely shadow work. It gives me it brings to mind to me a question of, what am I not seeing in the shadows? What am I overlooking? What am I not seeing? It's saying, look, all the pieces are here. All the meaning is here. So with those in place, what am I overlooking? It's absolutely beautiful. The colors, the use of color, the minimal use of color against the dark, the shadows. And unlike a lot of shadow decks, it doesn't give me that ominous feeling. It just gives me a very sense of this Ten of Swords. Oh my God. This one might give me that looming feeling, but it is just powerful. But it doesn't make me feel doom and gloom. or like it doesn't feel. It feels thought-provoking. It feels reflective. It feels intentional. But it doesn't feel just glancing at it like some decks do that are meant for shadow work. It doesn't make me feel overwhelmed or overburdened. It makes me think about like, I need to ponder this for a minute and think about it. So the cardstock is sort of that soft touch feel. It's a thick cardstock. It is probably going to be, stiff to well, it's not too bad. I was going to say, let me shuffle. It's thick, so that's not comfortable. And of course, getting arthritis now is really not, but it does do that. If you have larger hands, maybe. But I overhand shuffle anyway, and that's perfectly comfortable. But the cardstock is beautiful. The backs, again, I think are beautiful. Usually backs are something I have a problem with, is that I either don't like them, or I love them, or they don't make me mad one way or the other. They're just backs. These are beautiful. These I love. So once again, this is the Artist Decoded. I hope that we are able to continue discussing all things, including AI, in the spirit of sharing and respecting opinions, and not there's too much of us as a society today in the world of living in echo chambers and living in that cycle of, I'm only friends with these people on Facebook. I only hear what I want to hear. The other makes me mad. I'm not even going to look at it. And to me, I think it would be a real crime if we as a community in the tarot world allowed AI to make us into what society I see becoming polarized over an issue like this. There are some things that we can find agreement on. There are a lot of things that can be done to mitigate the impact of AI, to make it a useful tool and not something that's dominating. And I think that's where we really need to focus. If someone's using it artistically and you can tell that they are the artist behind the creation and that there is really heart in what's produced and the artwork does stand on its own 2 feet, then I think, for me, I can't dismiss that. What I can dismiss is someone saying, we have to build a data center here. We have to cool it this way because it's the cheapest way. So maybe we slow down building data centers and don't build them in areas where people live. Maybe we look at, there's always a way with all the, you cannot tell me that with all the technology we have, and we discussed this a little bit in our chat this morning, but there are ways that not only can we build them and they're not an impact to the environment, but they actually, just real quick, in the northern, I think it was Norway or Finland, but one of the northern countries, they're building them in the northern parts where it naturally cools. So they're not having to pull tons of water out, millions of gallons, to cool it. It cools naturally because of where it's located. But then the heat generated is channeled back out and vented into homes and goes in to heat the homes. So there's so many ways we can do it. We could be running on gasless cars right now. We have to, as a society, want to do that, and that's the key. So, ethics, morals, intent, and we as a society have the power to make sure those things are implemented appropriately. So, I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope you all have a great evening. I hope that once again that this does not make anyone angry. I hope that my goal, as I said earlier in my chat with Marylin, is that the discussion with AI, how I'm approaching it and talking about it, hopefully opens up avenues of conversation. And that is my hope, because I love this community. It's meant so much to me over the last few years that I've been involved in it. When I was desperately looking for some connection or practice in my life, I was going through a very rough patch, and it filled that, and it still fills that, and I love it. Let's take care of each other. Let's agree to disagree. Let's be kind to each other. Thank you all. Have a great evening.